please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? The minutes of October 25th, 2025, November 12th, 2025, January 26th, 2026, and March 4th, 2026 have been submitted. Is there any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, they will stand as submitted.
Mayor Dean, just for the record, I'd like to address there were a couple of typographical errors within the minutes from January 26th. This year, those typos have been addressed. Thank you, Commissioner Gustafson, and will be reflected in the final copy.
Okay, great, thank you. I will just briefly give a couple announcements before we jump into Commissioner comments. On tonight's agenda, there are several items which will be tabled at the request of staff and the applicant. These are regular items 9E, 9F, and public hearings 10A and 10B. We will be taking public comment prior to the motion to table these items. 9E, 9F, 10A, 10B. All right, we will first move to commission comments and questions. Oh, no, we'll not. I'm sorry. First, we're going to do proclamations. City of Helena proclamation. Whereas Americans lose billions of dollars each year to fraud, with older adults disproportionately affected, making prevention, education, and strong consumer protections more important than ever. And whereas the Federal Trade Commission estimates that fraud losses in 2024 were as high as $196 billion nationwide, with up to $81.5 billion stolen from older adults. And whereas Montanans reported $22.5 million in fraud losses in 2024, and according to the FTC, and whereas older adults who experience fraud have a life-changing amount of money stolen from them, $83,000, 4 times that of the average across all ages. And whereas older adults are often affected by fraud when they are no longer working and are already financially strained and unable to recover the money that was stolen. And whereas public awareness and education are critical in helping consumers recognize the common red flags of scams and keeping them informed about emerging fraud trends. And whereas our communities, which include nonprofit organizations, law enforcement, and public officials, are working to strengthen consumer protections, provide victim support, and advocate for stronger measures to prevent and prosecute fraud at the local, state, and federal levels. And whereas preventing fraud is a shared responsibility, and increasing awareness during Fraud Prevention Month empowers all residents of Helena, especially older adults, to protect themselves, their families, and their financial security. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Emily K. Dean, Mayor of the City of Helena, Montana, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2026 as Fraud Prevention Month in Helena, and encourage all residents to learn the red flags of scams and to support community and advocacy efforts that help prevent scams, protect consumers, and assist fraud victims. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set forth my hand and caused the seal of the City of Helena, Montana, to be affixed this day of the 17th day of April, 2026. I'm very pleased we have a number of representatives from AARP to receive the proclamation. Commissioners, we first are going to take a photo with the representatives in front of the dais, and then we'll pass it over to AARP and representatives to talk a little bit about Fraud Prevention Month. We have Kristen, page 9 with AARP.
Thank you so much for recognizing the rise of fraud by proclaiming April Fraud Prevention Awareness Month. Each year, millions, according to the FBI, each year, millions of older Americans fall victim to some types of financial fraud or confidence scheme. Common scams that target older citizens include romance scams, tech support scams, grandparent scams, government impersonation scams, sweepstakes, and lottery scams, home repair scams, TV and radio scams. In 2024, we already knew fraud targeting of older Americans was surging. The rapid industrialization of fraud has created a new class of criminals far more sophisticated than the con men of the past. Last year alone, as you heard, fraud grew by 43%, making the fastest growing industry in the country. Whether modern day getaway car for these sophisticated, often international criminals is through cryptocurrency kiosks, gift cards, wire transfers, and even changing into gold and silver. More needs to be done. AARP and its members are working tirelessly with the public, partners, and all levels of government to raise awareness and work towards real policy solutions. Tonight is an important first step in the kickoff of our April Fraud Prevention Blitz. Several of the Greater Helena area volunteers have taken time tonight to be with you, and I'd like for them to stand up in support and thank you. Before I hand the microphone over to my colleague Marcus Meyer to briefly share more about the Fraud Blitz events you may be interested in promoting, I would like permission for Marcus to hand out 2 valuable resources we hope you will help us promote.
Please.
Following Marcus, we have brave friends, a brave friend group, really, here in the Greater Helena, and one from Jefferson County, who are here to briefly share their real fraud survivor stories. You hear that this is a national problem, but it's right here in our community. And it's happening, it could happen to anybody. These are over 70-year-old, highly intelligent, retired professionals, and I hope you appreciate their willingness to stand up before you and share so that others hopefully will not fall victim to these heinous crimes. Thanks again for your time and your support in raising awareness.
Thank you.
So as Kristen mentioned, we'll have a few events for the Fraud Prevention Month in April, and we will start with a fraud prevention webinar that'll be on April 15th, and we'll reference the handouts that you see with the stop and drop, so information on how to protect your personal information, and then also reporting. So if you fall victim to a scam, or if you want to report a scam, where you can do that within the state. So you have the Attorney General's office, the Auditor's office, Division of Banking, and then so on, some of the national areas that you can do that. And during the webinar, we will talk about those fraud prevention issues, but then we also hear from a person from Anaconda that fell victim to a scam, lost over $250,000 to scams. And so she's actually a volunteer for AARP now and talks about fraud prevention. So she's gonna walk through that whole process, how it affected her life, and what to do to prevent it from happening to others. So not only will we have the prevention information, but then some information about how it happened to other people. And then we'll follow it up with, we have 4 shred events across the state, and those will go from April through May. And the one in Helena will be on the 22nd here in Helena at the UPS store. And so people can sign up for that, and you can shred 2 boxes of personal information, a max of two boxes, and we'll be there from 9 to 6 p.m. At the UPS store here in Helena. So, and all of that is registration for those events. I can hand you a piece of paper if you'd like that has the registration for that you can refer people to if that's something that you'd like.
Great. I think you can give it to our clerk, and she will make copies for all of us.
Absolutely. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Rob, who's going to come up and tell his story of how he was victimized.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, staff, and public. My name is Rob Freistadt. I live at 507 First Street, which is the corner of Davis and First. I am turning 71 years old. I'm a retired teacher and also owned and ran 2 businesses in downtown Helena for over 20 years. With that, I have got degrees in psychology, general social studies, elementary education, special education. I was scammed, and I am embarrassed to say that one of my degrees in psychology did absolutely nothing for me to combat what happened to me, which was a very believable scam. I spent over 8 hours on the phone with scam artists who had me depleting one of my accounts to the amount of $16,000 to be inserted into a Bitcoin machine. And of course, I did not see that money after it was eaten by the Bitcoin machine. I called the police department. The police department took the information, but were honest with me in that they could do very little for me. I did call the Bitcoin machine company, who said that they could do nothing for me because the money had probably already been collected at the other end. I think that we can do some things to prevent this kind of thing from happening, and I'm grateful that you are considering looking at this problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Mayor Dean, members of the commission, excuse me. I'm Tom Schneider. I'm 78 years old, served 3 terms on the State Public Service Commission, petroleum engineer by academic training, and they handled me very well. The long and short of it, I'm going to just name some of the circumstances. It started out with a Microsoft alert on my laptop that my laptop had been compromised. They were going to take control of the laptop, get that cleaned up. It was part of a broader identity theft fraud operation that involved multiple states. And so I turned it over. I was then contacted by the local bank person that identified himself as a fraud officer for the bank, advised me that my accounts had been compromised and used in various states to establish accounts for money laundering, porn, you name it. I said, I'm just going to call the bank president right now. He said, you can't contact anybody at the bank because there's an investigation underway. Everybody is a potential involvement in it. It all has to remain confidential. He then referred me to the Federal Trade Commission. The Federal Trade Commission officer identified himself by badge number, kind of a East Indian accent by my assessment of it. Was very professional. He said everything that had gone on with me was a part of a national trend that went through my identity fraud. My social security number had been compromised, that I would need to change my social security number. I would be, at the end of this process, if I were a cooperating witness, I would be compensated for the fraud that began to unfold so that I would not lose any funds. I was then in over almost a 2.5-week period, I had daily calls with this Federal Trade Commission officer. He advised me that I was to liquidate my IRA, ding, 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 and proceed to transfer the IRA to my local bank account, from which I was then to buy gold, ding, 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 ding. If there was anything that I could do wrong, I did wrong. And the real clincher for me in terms of credibility and anxiety was I received from this Federal Trade Commission officer under Federal Trade Commission letterhead a formal complaint naming me, that everything was confidential, non-disclosure, that I was either a witness or was involved in this fraud that was going on nationally. He reported about the results of FBI investigations in other states linked to my accounts. And so I did it all. I liquidated my IRA, life savings, transferred it to a local bank, bought gold, packaged the gold as directed by the Federal Trade Commission officer who was on the phone during all of these activities and transfers, and boxed it and was advised that a undercover agent would be picking up the gold outside of my home, ding, ding, ding. And I was to place, when I got the password from the undercover agent, I was supposed to put the box in the back seat of the vehicle, which I did, and that was the end of my savings. And I was advised that the following day I was to meet with Social Security, Federal Trade Commission, the U.S. Treasury, because they were putting my funds in a federal lockbox, Treasury lockbox. The meeting never happened. And so I finally snapped out of it the next day. I called my attorney, said, call the city police immediately, go right down, report it. He called the U.S. attorney for the state of Montana. They got the FBI involved. And I credit the city's Officer Graham, Josh Graham, did a great job, took my situation very seriously, busted his tail to run down this case. Anyway, that's my sad story. I can say that not revealing the admonition about confidentiality, that was probably the key to me losing everything. because if I had said anything to my daughter, my attorney, the bank president, anybody would have said, this is phony. I didn't do any of that. Thanks for your consideration, and I appreciate your proclamation and your involvement in this fraud. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks to AARP for launching this awareness campaign, and very excited for the city to participate further. All right, any comments from the commission?
Mayor Dean.
Yes, Commissioner
Thank
Logan.
you. I appreciate your proclamation and the awareness that it brings. As a child of parents that my wife and I over the course of about 8 years, helped our parents to the end of their lives. And it seemed that during that time, they were just under constant assault of people trying to gain access to their savings and assets and all that. And so not only is this awareness important for folks that could directly be affected by it, but for loved ones and caretakers, this is very invaluable information. I got to where I didn't stop and ask myself, could this be a scam? I stopped and assumed it was. Started there until with our folks until otherwise, proven otherwise. So thank you very much for this, what's been brought forward here today.
Okay, we will go ahead and move on to communications and proposals from commissioners. Commissioner Logan, I think you are going to cover acceptance of the fiscal year 2025 financial and federal single audits.
Just waiting to see if anybody else had anything to offer. So the audit committee met recently, and the audit committee this year consists of myself, Commissioner Reed, with Mayor Dean as an alternate, and Director Danielson as a staff liaison. We meet as needed to discuss and make recommendations related to the city's financial audit. So the annual comprehensive financial report for the city of Helena, in this case, the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, is published as the official annual financial report, and it complies with Montana state law that requires annual reports for general purpose local governments to be filed in a timely manner. So we met on the 6th of March, and we had representatives from Mayor Dussel, who were the auditors that dealt with this financial audit. They presented the FY 2025 audit and annual comprehensive report and provided and discussed the following reports. The first being the required commission communication regarding significant audit matters, the independent auditor's report, the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. And lastly, the independent auditor's report on compliance for each major program and on internal control over compliance required by uniform guidance. So, happily, there were no findings in the financial audit, and they issued an unmodified opinion, which indicates they found no significant issues with material misstatements and believed the financial statements to be presented fairly and in compliance with internal controls. There were no findings in the federal single audit, which indicates they believed in all material respects met the OMB Office Management and Budget compliance guidelines and had no deficiencies in internal controls. The audited financial statements were filed with the Montana State Department of Administration this report is posted on the city's website in the Finance Department and Accounting Division page. And Director Danielson mercifully is here tonight to give us a brief summary of the reports and answer any specific questions that you may have. But coming from that meeting on March 6th, Commissioner Reed and myself recommended to the commission, to the full commission here, accepting the financial and federal single audits to be presented to the commission. So you will expect a motion here shortly, hopefully. So any questions? Turn it over to Director Danielson.
Thank you, Commissioner Logan and Mayor and Commissioners. I think you did a wonderful job of covering that. This is our annual financial report, and we're also required to have an federal single audit because our federal funds exceeded $1 million. So we did have the requirement of 2 audits this year. We typically go over $1 million primarily because of our transit funds will push us over the edge, but we also had community development block grants that exceeded $1.4 million this year. Those are pass-through grants, federal pass-through grants that were the focus of the federal single audit this year is major programs to audit. And so everything went well with both the annual financial audit and the federal single audit. As Commissioner Logan indicated, there were no issues brought up that would lead them to believe that there were any material misstatements, and they issued an unmodified opinion on both the financial audit and the federal single audit. Because of the nature of the comprehensiveness of this report, I like to just draw some attention to a particular sections of the report that I think that are a good summary of what is all inclusive of the entire report. One is the transmittal letter that gives a great profile of the city. It highlights the economic condition and the outlook of the city, and then it also acknowledges some acknowledgements of awards that the city has received and those that have been involved in preparing the report. The next section of the report is then management discussion and analysis, and that provides an overall summary of the report and the contents of the report. And then the report itself presents a government-wide view and fund view of each of our funds and financial condition of the city. It highlights our net position and fund balance changes, our revenues by sources, budgetary highlights, capital assets, and our long-term debt positions. The notes to the financials explain in detail what's found and contained in each of the financial reports, and also goes into great detail of our pension and other post-employment benefit information. Our supplemental information includes governmental fund breakdowns and statistical data. And then at the end of the report is our federal single audit information. Again, I think that I want to thank my staff and also all of the departments that are responsible for maintaining their data in order for us to be able to put together this information and get it to the auditors, and for also want to thank the auditors for their work as well and helping us through this. And I'm happy that both the financial and the federal single audit resulted in unmodified opinions. We did receive a management letter that pointed out some recommendations, and we have taken those under advisement and are working toward coming up with some recommendations to rectify that. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any at this point.
Thank you, Director Danielson and Commissioner Logan. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mayor Dean and Director Danielson. I was trying to find the management letter. Sorry, this packet is ginormous. But in the audit meeting, the management findings you just discussed were minor but we'd had them the year prior, and I thought you provided a good explanation for where we are. Would you mind just covering those briefly for the rest of the commission, please?
Yeah, normally I don't submit the management letter at the full commission meeting, just normally at the audit committee. But let me bring those up real quick. So the management letter did go over some just recommendations for processes. One of them was related to some of our internal procedures and policies. One discussed trying to address an artificial intelligence policy. I did discuss this with our information technology director, and this is something that they have been looking at and working on. They have indicated that they're waiting to try to see where the state and federal level is with those policies before they fully implement something for the city and the county. We did also get some notes regarding the golf course and the civic center as far as internal controls. Sometimes it's very difficult when you have a small operation and you have staff that are handling cash, taking cash, and then creating deposits. And so I've spoken to the director of Parks and Recreation about maybe some methods that we can take to try to insert some more internal controls around that. But at the end of the day, they are just recommendations, and there is some acknowledgement that because of the small operations that it is sometimes difficult to have full internal controls with that. The parking sales, they had addressed that they weren't able to really rectify or reconcile all the park and sale information with the financial information. The Transportation Services Division, Systems Division has implemented a new software that has rectified that issue. So the second half of the year was not a problem. It was the first half of the year trying to reconcile receipts. But we believe that that situation has been rectified. And then again, just another internal control where at the Transportation Systems Office, they have one person taking money and then also creating a deposit. So we've talked about that with the director. They discussed the petty cash reconciliation. There was one person managing the petty cash reconciliation and then also reconciling it. So that's in my office. We've addressed that. We've set up an internal control with that. And the remainder of the information that was recommendations that were brought up were information technology related, primarily around disaster recovery and user access level review. And so I talked to our information technology director, and we have a information technology committee meeting coming up, and those two items are on the agenda for us to discuss and move forward with a plan. So I think we definitely have some things to work on, and we'll definitely report back to the commission on our progress for those.
Great, thank you. Any additional comments or questions? Commissioner Gustafson.
Thank you, Audit Committee and Director Danielson. I'm glad it was a clean audit and a lovely report. I am going to be that person that encourages everyone to read the 200-page document because it was quite interesting, especially as a new commissioner. The transmittal letter does paint a good story of the city and gives a lot of perspective. And then I also enjoyed the statistical section at the end. I would highlight that for folks on page 206 for your meeting packet if you're interested. But a lot of data looking back, and so helpful for me. So thank you for all the time. I do actually have a question in there. When do you start the audit process? And is it always the same time each year?
Thank you for that question, Mayor and Commissioner Gustafson. So we don't ever end the audit process, but it formally starts to begin after the fiscal year end. And so at that time, at the fiscal year end, we start preparing our work papers and start doing our entries, our fiscal year end reconciliations and work papers. The auditors don't, they ask for our trial balance by the end of September, so that then they can start doing all their testing. So that typically September, October is when it really ramps up with the auditors. This particular year, there was a delay in getting them our trial balance at the end of September, so we got it to them at the end of October. That pushed out their audit by 2 months because they're on a schedule with other clients in the state as well. Due to the turnover in my office, that was just unavoidable. So this year, I cross my fingers that I won't have the turnover that I've had in the last year, and we'll be in a better position to getting them their trial balance by the end of September and be able to wrap up and get everything filed by the end of December.
Okay, yes, City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commission. I just wanted to take a moment and express my gratitude to Director Danielson and her team. She mentioned it briefly, but their team was extremely undermanned during this whole entire process. We were starting budget process during this as she was wrapping up the audit, and to still have no major findings is actually a very rare thing for a city with this complex of a budget. And so I really want to applaud the efforts of your team and thank you for keeping us on track, and appreciate you already tackling the additional suggestions that were mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Danielson. And since this does require action, I would open up public comment. So is there any public comment on the FY25 financial and federal single audit? Any public comment? All right, seeing no public comment, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean,
Commissioner Logan.
I move to accept the City of Helena, Montana's fiscal year 2025 financial and federal single audits.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion from the commission? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion carries 4-0.
And I am going to look to the clerk of the commission for a moment. I believe we're having a few technical difficulties. If the clerk might want to give us an announcement.
Thank you, Mayor Dean, Commissioners, and for those individuals that are attempting to participate online. We do apologize. We are having some technical difficulties with the video feed here in the room. You may have noticed already that it is flashing in and out. We are working through a troubleshooting process, but it may not be rectified until after the meeting is over, so we apologize ahead of time for those that are online. It appears that the audio is working properly, however.
Great. All right, we will move on to report of the city attorney. City Attorney Doctor.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. Last we were here at the admin meeting, I gave an update about the special meeting that is now scheduled for this Thursday, March 26th. I wanted to just give some information about that and then update about it as well. The special meeting will be a meeting that will focus on Resolution 21062 entitled Memorializing City of Helena Policy when Federal Immigration Enforcement Actions are Present Within the City. It'll be held at 5 p.m. at the Civic Center on March 26th, that's this week. The commissioners will be deciding on how to address the matters raised by the Attorney General in his March 10th, 2026 letter. And if there's anything else that we need to mention about that, City Clerk, feel free to correct that. But also just in addition, I wanted to mention that outside counsel Tasha Jones was in touch with the Attorney General's office, who granted an extension on the 15-day deadline that was in the March 10th letter, and allowed for us the opportunity to discuss it at this special meeting, and then they'll confer afterward to see the next steps, so I can report back after that once we have the special meeting on Thursday. So just letting you know that that is an extension. Otherwise, we would have had to have had a response on Wednesday of this week, so we do have that extension at least. I don't have anything else to to provide, and I can take questions on proposal, or I'm sorry, on the procedure, but we, again, don't have this agendized with any materials, so I would avoid talking about the substance and defer any substantive discussion to Thursday of this week.
Thank you, City Attorney Doctor. Questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. First of all, I believe the meeting is at 5:30, not 5?
Mayor, Commissioner Reed, that is correct, 5:30.
5:30. And if I might, I had a couple of questions. So you mentioned the deadline has been extended. So will the commission see a draft of the response prior to it being submitted? And when might that happen?
Mayor, Commissioners, if that's indeed what you would like to do, I can certainly provide that. I think that we will, outside counsel will discuss with the Attorney General's office after the special meeting what will continue to be required, if anything, afterward. I think it'll all depend on how it goes on Thursday, so I'm leaving it very wide open because I don't know exactly what will happen there.
Thank you. Two more, I'll be brief. As you know, City Attorney Doctor, I had asked you a question, a couple of questions, so I will ask them again since I sent the emails in advance. I indicated I've received many comments and questions from the public, and here are some questions that I pose to you. Question number 1, on February 11th, the city put out a press release where we state, quote, "The resolution was drafted with careful consideration of applicable local, state, and federal law, and the city believes the resolution is consistent with those legal requirements." So why are we considering rescinding the resolution in full now? What parts of the resolution do we feel are not consistent with legal requirements? And the second question is, why is the staff recommendation in the special meeting packet to rescind the resolution and not to amend portions that may need to be changed to be more in line with legal requirements? And as I indicated to you, these are an amalgamation of the many, many, many questions I have received from the public.
Mayor, Commissioner Reed, thank you for the heads up about what to discuss, and I would defer that for a conversation on Thursday so that we can have that in total. I will respond, though, to the procedural, what I perceive as a procedural question from you about the materials that were attached. The materials in it include a motion for rescinding, and mostly because I mentioned that during our last update, and so I provided just that one. Obviously, it's your decision, and you can change those motions however it might come up during the meeting on Thursday. I offered one option. I didn't want to list them all. So that's really why it ended up that way.
Thank you. Just a follow-up to that, the special meeting packet agenda does not contain any information about legal analysis addressing the first part of the question. Will anything be received by commissioners or the public in advance of that meeting to contextualize the discussion more fully?
Mayor, Commissioner Reed, no, the plan was not to provide anything in writing, and it was intended just to have the conversation on Thursday.
Okay, last question then. If we wanted to propose amendment language or motion language, would you like us to send those to you in advance?
Mayor, Commissioner Reed, I'd be happy to look at those in advance if that's helpful for you.
Okay. Additional questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. I think you answered this, but I got a little confused. The Attorney Doctor, the response that is required, that we have an extension for the response. Did I hear you say that that could be provided to commissioners after Thursday or during Thursday's meeting?
Mayor, Commissioner Gustafson, after the meeting on Thursday. I think part of the response will include what it is that happens on Thursday. So it would be after the meeting.
Other commission comments?
Mayor Dean.
Commissioner Logan.
Thank you. As City Attorney Doctor pointed out, Tasha Jones, who is an attorney from Missoula was hired by the city of Helena as counsel to represent us with regard to Montana Attorney General Knutson's investigation into the legality of Helena's Resolution 21062. So 1 week ago, she met individually with each member of the Helena City Commission to advise us how to legally proceed with respect to the AG's investigation. Also present at those meetings were City Attorney Rebecca Doctor and Clerk of the Commission Danae Claiborne. So this means that during those meetings on Monday last, 8 people heard privileged attorney-client information which is confidential in nature. This confidential attorney-client relationship is allowed by law so that the city is able to defend itself appropriately in litigation matters. At last Wednesday's administrative meeting, we heard public comment which made it clear that those commenting had been shared details of that privileged and confidential information given to us by Ms. Jones. I guess my question is, I'd like to know who shared that information with them and why. And I guess I'd follow it up with why I raised the question is this is not an isolated incident, and it's a serious matter that undermines the city of Helena and its ability to legally defend itself, and I don't think we can any longer afford to ignore it. So, thank you, Mayor Dean.
Thank you, Commissioner Logan. Any additional comments? I have a couple comments. One, appreciate your comments, Commissioner Logan. I did get a couple phone calls prior to our Wednesday meeting and was a little taken aback that those community members had information that they were relaying to me that was privileged information. And the reason that, and I maybe want to level set here, the reason that this is important is because when privileged information that is discussed in attorney-client conversations is put out into the public, it weakens the city's ability to defend ourselves successfully in litigation. And so I do think that's something that we need to start being thoughtful about, and I think this is potentially a conversation for how we govern ourselves moving forward within our bylaws or otherwise, because it does end up costing us in terms of our ability to successfully defend ourselves when our litigation strategy is discussed in a public forum, particularly when we're going up against entities much larger than our own. I did want to just provide a couple comments tonight about where my head is heading into Thursday. And it's interesting, I keep coming back to this idea that local government is really the most direct expression of democratic self-governance. And I would never expect another Montana community, whether it be Culbertson or Kalispell or Sydney or Bozeman, to have the same exact perspectives of those of us in Helena. And that's the thing that makes Montana so wonderful, is that we all have very independent communities that still manage to hold similar values of caring for their neighbors and also minding their own business. And very independent communities who really have a very wide and diverse set of opinions. Over this weekend, I listened to a recent podcast interview with Governor Gianforte, where he discussed the need to build consensus around issues that he believes and policies that he thinks should reflect what local communities want to do. So really a conversation around that policy should be reflective of the communities where they're being impacted. And it was interesting because, and he said that he respects that and thinks that's an important part of how we govern here in Montana. And the last question he answered in the podcast was about what he would say to those who disagree with him. And he said, quote, "If they have a disagreement, they should come and let's have a conversation," end quote. And I know sometimes they tend to do things a little bit differently at the state capitol complex, but in local government, this is the place where we really have to talk things out and find common ground, especially when there are disagreements. And so with that, I'd like to, really extend an invitation to the Attorney General, as the governor suggested, to come and have a conversation with us for us to find a path forward. I'm very grateful to the city attorney and our outside counsel for all the work you've been doing over the last couple weeks, and looking forward to our conversation on Thursday. So with that, I think we will go ahead and move to the report of the city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, commissioners and members of the public. I have 3 updates for you this evening. We'll start off with Public Works Director Leland, who will give an update on a project and some traffic changes.
Thank you, Mayor Commission. I just want to give you an update and public service notice that we will be shutting down Carriage Lane. This is part of an ARPA project to be able to connect Hale Reservoir over to Reader's Village Pump Station and get that pump station offline. It's getting older, is not operational, so this is a project to be able to go across. We are going to have to shut down the main entrance going into Reader's Village, which means the traffic control is going to have to go across Howie Street, then around and down Adams Street. I can see that it came up there and it's hard to see any of the streets, but this is a better traffic control that we actually have out there. And the contractor is going around door to door up in Reader's Village to talk to every single one of them. They're going to make 3 attempts to be able to talk to any of the residents. They are also going to talk to any of the residents along Benton Avenue because they're going to see increased traffic. It's unfortunate, but only having one consistent way in and out, and with an emergency, unfortunately, we are going to impact some of the residents. We are going to keep the trailhead open, but we are going to encourage people to use other trailheads while this is under construction. The contractor is going to help because of the weight limit on Howie Bridge with other emergency services, deliveries, fire trucks, and solid waste, so they will keep it open to be able to keep them to go through, but it is only on a short-term basis. There's no way to be able to keep traffic going in and out with just the narrow road that goes in there. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Can you give us the dates?
Sorry, I was just, as I was saying that, is that they're looking to do the 25th to start. We are, hopefully it'll be done quicker, but we are anticipating 3-week closure just in case we hit more rock than we are anticipating on this. So we're hoping to get it done much quicker, but it's again going to be 3 weeks from Wednesday.
Okay. Questions for Director Leland? Okay, thank you. Yes, City Manager.
Thank you, Director Leland. Next, I'm pleased to announce that through the strong work of our community development staff, the City of Helena has been awarded a $50,000 Community Development Block Grant. We are grateful to Governor Gianforte and the Montana Department of Commerce for this support. These funds will assist Disability Rights Montana with architectural reports, a feasibility study, and the development of a capital improvements plan advancing accessibility and opportunity in our community. And lastly, I'd like to share that the Montana DEQ recently recognized City of Helena employee Sherry Johnston from our 911 dispatch team for her excellent work delivering a conflict and crisis de-escalation training to their staff. According to DEQ Deputy Director James Fair, Sherry provided valuable insight into the psychology of crisis behavior and equipped their employees with practical tools to effectively de-escalate tense situations. The training was very well received, and her professionalism reflects positivity on our organization. We appreciate Sherry's continued commitment to serving both our team and the broader community. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Lake. Any additional questions for the commission to the City Manager? All right, we will go ahead and move right along. Communications from the Helena Citizens Council. Chair Kuiper.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Ben Kuiper. I'm the chair of the Helena Citizens Council. So we have a little bit of a scheduling conflict with your special meeting and our regular meeting. We're going to keep our regular meeting as originally scheduled, which is Thursday at 5:30. That said, we're expecting not a full meeting, so I feel like that'll be adequate time for our representatives to go to your special meeting if they do want to make public comment. We're not going to have a stance on that as a council, but I'm going to encourage any representatives that want to make public comment one way or another to attend that meeting or submit their public comment via the public comment portal on the website. So I went over the agenda items during the admin meeting. We're looking at some guiding principles updates, and that's about it. So if there's anything, any questions for me, I'll stand for them now.
Any questions for Chair Kuiper? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we'll move along to regular item A, consider Good Samaritan Ministries Community Aid Grant Agreement. Ms. Opitz.
Thank you, Mayor Dean, Commissioners. I'll be brief this evening. Before you is an agreement for use of funds in the amount of $134,600 to be granted to the Good Samaritan Ministries. These funds were originally allocated in August of 2023. Many of you were on the commission at the time, so you know that this project has taken on many forms. Initially, the funding was intended to be used for the Ruth's Place Women's Shelter at the North Last Chance Gulch location where our place used to live. Unfortunately, that building was purchased and the lease was terminated. The Ruth Place project moved on and had a few different temporary locations, eventually ended up landing with Family Promise, and they have continued, and this commission has supported that women's shelter project as well. However, with the termination of their lease, our place also was displaced. Our place is their drop-in day service for folks that are unhoused and peer support program that has been located temporarily in a building on National Avenue that's owned by Habitat for Humanity. However, their lease is also up on that building as well. So in the last handful of weeks, we received a proposal from Good Samaritan for a remodel of their thrift store location on North Montana Avenue that would include their Our Place program. So you'll see in the packet, the renovation includes repurposing a portion of the thrift store to include build out for drop-in center spaces, reception, peer support, kitchen, excuse me, laundry and shower facilities, storage offices, and telehealth areas. I believe that Dan Bartleson and or Eric Kroger from Good Samaritan are here if you have questions specific to the project. But other than that, I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mayor Dean, and thank you, Ms. Opitz. I just want to say I'm delighted to see this project finally moving forward. It's been a long road, and I'm happy to see Our Place has found what is hopefully a more permanent home.
Great. Any additional questions? I don't know, Mr. Bartleson, if you want to address the commission at all, you're welcome to do so.
Mayor and Commissioners. I'm delighted to be here. I had the opportunity to meet with some of you. I believe it was late spring of 25, and just try to get our feet under us at Good Samaritan during kind of a difficult year. And one of the main concerns of everyone I met with and in our community was one of the most concrete supports that we have for our unhoused community, and that is our place. So to be able to be here and be in front of you with what I feel like is a fairly comprehensive long-term home for our place that fits very nicely under the mission of Good Samaritan, but represents a really strong partnership with kind of carrying the hope that our place fulfill its own mission. I believe that it's just the fruit of a lot of goodwill in the community and the ability to continue conversations long after they probably should have already been established. And so I'm grateful for your patience as well. I feel like with Eric Kroger coming on as an executive director in training this year, there's some normalcy, and we have been able to retain key staff at our place throughout 2025 and into 26 as well. I'm happy to address any specific questions that I can about the proposal itself while I'm here, but I may need to fall back on Eric over there because he's really doing the heavy lifting.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Kroger, as well. Any questions or comments from the commission? All right, we will open it up to public comment. Any public comment? Any public comment?
Good evening. Lily Clark, Lilyclarke. Good evening, Mayor Commissioners. After almost 500 of your voters, your taxpayers, came out in support of the resolution to the most highly attended city commission meeting in history. On Thursday, you were considering...
Ms. Clark?
Yes?
Are you giving public comment on the Good Samaritan proposal?
No.
Okay, we'll hold the general public comment to the end of the agenda. Okay. So this is public comment on Good Samaritan's contract.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Seeing no additional public comment, any final discussion? I just want to public comment on Good Samaritan? Yes. Okay, come on up.
I'm Thelma Simon. I live in Helena. And I'd just like to say thank you for stepping up and doing that, because that was just breaking my heart. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, any commission discussion? I just briefly want to thank Mr. Bartleson, Mr. Kroger for your, I know that this has been you had a whirlwind year coming on board, now transitioning. Our place is just a very critical pillar in the community, especially in terms of providing the supports that actually help people get back onto their feet and really find a healthy path forward in their life. So I'm just thrilled that you have taken the time to think this out thoroughly so that it can be even more effective as it's implemented. So thank you. All right. Yes, Commissioner Gustafson.
I'm going to make a motion.
Please do.
All right. I move to approve this grant agreement with Good Samaritan 900 LLC.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion carries 4-0.
Okay, we are going to go ahead and move on to item 9B, and that is considering a resolution of intent to set the fees charged at Bill Roberts Golf Course. Director Smith.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. We're here today to talk about fees for two of the divisions of the Parks Department. One, the first being Bill Roberts Golf Course, excuse me, and secondly, the Civic Center. I just want to give a brief, because we've been receiving a lot of questions regarding the fees for these two operations. They're kind of going off cycle with the rest of our fees, and I just want to explain why that is for the Civic Center and golf. And the answer is the Civic Center is already booked for this whole year. So any future bookings will be on our future fee schedule for a future year. So everything that's booked now and until June 30th, and we're sold out through the end of this year anyways, so these will be in arrearages. The realization of the revenues will be a year and a half down the road instead of this July and August for our Civic Center in particular, because we're booked so far out. And golf is similar as well with the seasonality of falling July 1st. Our rates, our events, our tournaments are all scheduled throughout the year based on this past year's fee schedule. So just wanted to give you a little bit of overview of a lot of the questions that I received, and I thought with being here before you for the first time in 2 years for fees and having new commissioners, it'd be nice just to explain that. So I hope that was helpful. We're here today to ask the commission for consideration of a resolution of intention to establish fees to be charged for the Bill Roberts Municipal Golf Course, repealing resolution number 20906. We were here before you on Wednesday's administrative meeting on the 18th before the commission to answer any questions, and our Golf Advisory Board Chairman, Jack Gregg, came in and notified the commission and the public that the Golf Advisory Board fully supports the rate increases at the Bill Roberts Golf Course this year. And with that said, I would like to give a staff recommendation to move to approve a resolution of intention to establish fees to be charged for the Bill Roberts Municipal Golf Course, repealing resolution number 20906, and set a public hearing for April 6th, 2026. After answering any questions that anyone may have at this time.
Great. Thank you, Director Smith. Any questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Gustafson.
Thank you. Director Smith, I asked this question on Wednesday, and I tried to look for it a little bit in the audit too, in the budget. Do you have an answer for my
It was a Civic Center question, and yes, I do.
Okay, well, I think I asked it about both. Do you have the answer for, well, here's the question for those who weren't there.
Yes.
Fees of the total budget for both entities, golf course and Civic Center, how much do the fees cover the expenses?
That question, we came up with a number of what the general fund contribution has been and didn't get the details to the questions, because we had another question on golf carts and the cost of the carts and maybe cost recovery piece was, I think, was what was being asked last week. Those are things that we can put together for you, but in the overall budget itself, the general fund contribution was $360,000 last year for the Civic Center.
Oh, so that's on the next item.
Yeah, we
So
said
that's Civic Center.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And the golf is very convoluted, and I'm prepared to speak to Commissioner
I love
Gustafson.
convoluted answers, please.
Well, it's going to require, because we have 3 different budgets with the golf maintenance, munis, and all operations of the shop, that when we do these fee increases, it's only stuck to one part of the operations, which are taking the money at the till. So it's kind of convoluted, and it's not, when we did our budget analysis and printout, we determined that Sheila Danielson would need to come up to explain it more thoroughly.
Director Danielson.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. So, Commissioner Gustafson, so over the course of, I'm going to speak specifically to the Civic Center. So the Civic Center has never been an operation where it is supposed to be fully self-sufficient because it is a city facility. It's a little bit of a misnomer to say that the general fund is contributing to the Civic Center because we also charge the Civic Center overhead. However, our contribution to the Civic Center has steadily actually declined based on their operating costs. For fiscal year 2026, that contribution is only about 25.5% of their operating costs. In 2027, we're projecting that it's about 24.5% of their operating costs. But then if you look at how much then they pay back to the general fund and their overhead, it's a wash. So technically we could not give them money, and then they couldn't give the general fund money, and it would probably be a wash. It's more of an accounting exercise. The golf fund, on the other hand, is intended to be an enterprise fund that is supposed to be treated and acted like a business. However, in I think it was 2018, the commission voted to accept a general obligation bond on the clubhouse for over $2 million. And we're presented with a scenario that the golf fund could afford that bond, and then COVID hit, and has struggled to make the debt service payments on that ever since. I will say, with the management of Todd Fritter at the golf course and Stephen Link at the golf course, they have done a phenomenal job in turning that operation around and being self-sufficient. And the trend of that fund has been able to turn things around and build their cash reserves up. They're not quite at their operating reserve target requirement yet, but they are building their cash reserves, fully knowing that they're going to end up with an irrigation project that's going to cost quite a bit of money. So our general fund contribution to that particular fund has steadily declined. It's budgeted to decline again another $5,000 in fiscal '27 to only $80,000. That's a pretty significant change from a few years ago, where we were funding the entire debt service contribution. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Director Danielson. Yes, that was very helpful.
And you'll get more of this once we get to budget as well. All right, any additional questions? And we'll start with on golf fees. Questions or comments on golf? All right, seeing none. Is there any public comment on the Bill Roberts Municipal Golf fees? Any public comment? All right, seeing no public comment and no additional discussion, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean.
Yes, Commissioner Reed.
I move to approve a resolution of intention to establish fees to be charged for the Bill Roberts Municipal Golf Course, repealing resolution number 20906, and to set a public hearing for April 6, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion carries 4-0.
All right, we will move on to consider a resolution of intent to set fees charged at the Helena Civic Center. Director Smith.
All right, back again. Mayor, Commissioners, thanks for having Parks here today to talk about the Civic Center fee schedule. We're here today to ask the Commission to consider a resolution of intention to set fees to be charged at the Helena Civic Center, repealing resolution number 20987. And again, I'll be repetitive. We came on Wednesday, March 18th to the administrative meeting to approach the commission and answer any questions regarding the Civic Center fees. And we're standing here today before you to answer any additional questions or have any additional comments for myself or the finance director.
Any questions or comments regarding the Civic Center? I just have a brief comment. And this goes for the golf course as well. Over the last, and I think we'll talk about more of this when we get to budget, it has been pretty remarkable what both the Civic Center and golf course have been able to do over the last few years in becoming really lean and mean, and also providing high quality services in a manner that has really been a huge benefit to not having as much support having to come from the general fund. I think it's, and the reason why these fees are important and that they're, we're very thoughtful in the moderate increases where they do occur is because it is one of the few places that we can make accessible and affordable to nonprofits and community events that can normally not afford to have events elsewhere that build really the community and connections that make a place like this special. So very grateful to both golf and Civic Center staff and you, Director Smith, for all the work that's gone into this.
Thank you very much.
All right, any public comment on the Civic Center fees? Any public comment? All right, seeing no public comment, any final discussion from the commission? Seeing no additional discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean,
Yes, Commissioner Logan.
I would move to approve a resolution of intention to set fees to be charged for the Helena Civic Center, repealing resolution number 20987, and set a public hearing for April 6, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any final discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye. All right, we are going to go ahead and move on to item D, which is consider open lands recommendation for major projects for 2026. Mr. Langsather.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for having me here tonight. On March 18th, 2026, before the Commission Administrative Meeting, City staff presented 4 proposed open lands major projects for eventual completion. Prior to the administrative meeting in December, we had a community listening session where we accepted verbal and written comments, and these comments were incorporated into a number of minor changes that were put into the projects before we then again presented the open lands major projects to the community at the end of January and had a second 15-day comment period. I just want to also mention, and I didn't the other afternoon, that 3 of the projects that we presented on March 18th were actually products of community interaction during the year that reached the level of a major project, and that's when we then take them to the listening session. One of the projects was all obviously programmatic, but these projects they come from the community itself. With that, I would be more than happy to answer any additional questions that the commission may have on these projects.
Great. Questions or comments from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. I should have asked this question on Wednesday, and maybe I should also know it. Do these major projects come out of this fiscal year or next fiscal year budget? And if it's next fiscal year, then do we, I assume we approve them later or again? Can you talk to me about how these are paid?
Mayor Dean, Commission, so the way that we approach the projects is each major project, once it's approved by commission and maybe even prior to that, because the grant season is in January, and that's why we have the listening sessions at the end of the year, because we need to proceed forward. So if the commission approves a project and we don't have a companion grant, then that project goes on the shelf, and for several calendar years we will seek grant support to implement the project. And these funds come from the Open Space Maintenance District budget. So in this case, we've already, as staff, written 3 grants that could potentially support the implementation of the project. Only one project has an actual awarded grant at this time.
If I may follow up. Okay, so these major projects might not happen in a calendar or fiscal year. They're just approved in a calendar or fiscal year.
Mayor Dean.
Because they're funding dependent.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mayor Dean, Commission, it's not been uncommon for projects to sit on the shelf for several years. In the case of the Lime Kiln Trailhead parking area, it sat on the shelf for about 3 years. And then we found a community partner in Narrate Church to fund the paving of the project, and we built the trailhead parking area with city staff labor. And so in that case, we attempted to get a couple of different grants and we were unsuccessful. And so we moved on with a community-driven plan.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions? All right, seeing none. Any public comment? Is there any public comment?
Commissioners, mayor, and staff. My name is Rob Freistedt. I live at 507 First Street, which is the corner of Davis and First, at the very beginning of Davis Gulch, just a couple doors down from the unpaved part of Davis Road. I am here to ask some questions about the priorities of the Open Space Division. I was very much involved with the creation of the initial open space bond and the creation of Prickly Pear Land Trust back in the 90s. That was in response to a proposed 300-house development up on Mount Ascension. I was a part of that neighborhood. We fought it hard and successfully. And finally, after the fifth approach to the city by the developers, we decided that we would be more proactive and raise $5 million to not only purchase the private property on Mount Ascension to turn it into open space, but we also partnered with other entities around town, the tennis organization, the soccer organization, and others in order to pass that bond. And the community was gracious in passing that bond. The open space bond was intended for maintaining the open space, or for buying the open space, for maintaining it, and adding to it. Since that initial $5 million bond, there was another $10 million bond for open space that was passed subsequently. Living at the base of Davis Gulch, I have spent many a year, going on 30 now, speaking with the city about how we might be able to manage that area. When I moved to the corner of Davis and First, I had small children, one of them who was handicapped, and I saw a disaster brewing. Traffic coming down Davis Gulch goes faster than it should. It is recreational traffic, but also residents who live up the gulch. And in working with the city, we were experiencing in that neighborhood an incredible amount of dirt and dust. I'm not just going to say dust, dirt in the air. And as you can imagine, as people were going to recreate and also live, go to their houses up that.
If you could, we have a 3-minute limit normally, so if you could, I just wanted, if you could wrap up your comments shortly.
I'm sorry.
But we will be more than happy to accept, and I did see your comments in the packet as well, so if you can wrap up and then we can take more in written form.
I just wanted to reiterate, the parking lot that is being proposed for paving is a parking lot that is off of a dirt road still, that is creating an incredible amount of dust for that neighborhood. I question I question paving a parking lot which is off of a dirt road. I also question expanding that parking lot, which would require taking out trees, grasses, and bushes in a lovely area that right now is untouched. It would require rerouting the trail. That trail was originally planned as a handicapped accessible trail. It is not because of the way that it was built. iced tea money was forfeited in the building of that trail because it does not comply to handicapped accessibility. I applaud the open lands people for wanting to resurface that trail, but I think that the open space bond money needs to go to maintaining that trail, which right now has got large rocks, pieces of asphalt, pieces of cement that are coming through. My daughter cannot walk that trail independently. They have done a great job of creating a handicapped accessible trail off of the old shooting range parking lot. That parking lot is huge and seldom used. So yes, I would like you to go ahead and take a look at the priorities of open space. Is it a priority to go ahead and pave parking lots or to maintain the trails that we presently have?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, any additional public comment?
My name's Katie Kelly. I live at 1600 Livingston. Thank you for taking comment. I second his comments about that spot on Davis. I have seen, just recreating, I don't live in that area, but just recreating along that area, I see way too many cars driving too fast. And so I think addressing the issues of that area going through there for recreators and making more trail to access those higher up trails, like in reinforcing the infrastructure to get to town to the further back trails would be really helpful in creating a safer thoroughfare. And I actually didn't know about the opportunity to provide comment to that initially, and I would have absolutely been there if I had known at that time. So would love to see more just like communication about those opportunities as well.
Thank you. Okay, any additional public comment? Right, seeing no more public comment, questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Reed?
Thank you, Mayor Dean. A procedural question for I'm not sure who. The one part of the one project that has given me pause is specifically the paving the parking lot on a dirt road piece of the DeFord improvement. So is there a way for us to consider approving the major lands projects with the opportunity to revisit the one piece of the one project, and how might we best do that? I guess I will look to you, City Attorney Doctor, for procedure.
Mayor, Commissioner Reed, you could make a motion that would exclude that and just approve the other three. So three out of the four, and then ask for the fourth to be further explored. Does that answer the question?
It does, because most of the parts of the one are fine. It's a piece of the one, but if we need to pull the whole one out to revisit it, that yes, I would be happy to do that. I will attempt to do a motion to that effect. Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Commissioner Gustafson.
Thank you. I had a similar comment to Commissioner Reed. I also have concerns about the first project and having a open space project that then seems to be a traffic calming project, which seems more appropriate for streets to be involved in that. And so there is my end of sentence, sorry. Part two, I just want to acknowledge again, I think I said this on Wednesday, ample feedback. I'm not sure there was ample feedback on these projects and concerns about kind of the timing on when these get brought up, but I appreciate the context, for the grant cycle, but I do think there can be more done to get input from the public on these major projects. Thank you.
Yep, Commissioner Logan.
Thank you. I guess I'd be supportive of Commissioner Reed's, attempt at a motion to address the three and set the other aside.
Sure.
Thank you.
One comment I would have is if we are pulling out the first project, I think it would be helpful to have some of the additional context. I think the last estimate that I saw to pave Davis was $10 million to upgrade that. And so I think having that entire context is important, including Parks is doing what is not in the right of way, and transportation what is in the right of way. And so I think that maybe additional opportunity to have that discussion. Overall, I'm supportive of the project because I think it does help make things safer for a very busy area. But I'm very much open to having additional conversation. But I do think we need to have the entire context of, as much as a lot of people would love to see improvement, it is a $10 million project, if I'm recalling correctly. And Mr. Linksether, I don't know if you want to address any of those comments.
Mayor, Commission, I would like to address those comments. So the purpose and need behind paving the actual surface of the parking area is related to our ability to then install painted parking stalls where we get parking discipline. If you have a real limited footprint, it's very important that you have precise parking discipline. I was up at Lime Kiln today where we only have 8 stalls, but our trail users are just being great about, they're parked in their stall and it rotates out, new people come in. One thing we see at the old shooting range is controlled chaos, if you have it, where people park at all different angles. And the other item that I would like to mention is that there's a portion of the trail using public that really enjoys accessing the open space system from the Middle to Ford trailhead. The old shooting range trailhead, we've done an amazing amount of improvements up there. One is the universal access trail and the associated parking area, but we're also have all of our youth biking events. Those are classes. Those all take place at the old shooting range. So we need that large capacity up there, but we also need capacity down below for those trail users that want to access the Eagle Scout Trail and the upper portions of Mount Ascension. But again, the purpose and the need for the paving is to get parking discipline as part of the equation. I would mention that paving is the match for the grant that we've acquired.
Okay.
Mayor Dean.
Yes, Commissioner Logan.
Thank you. That's very helpful to know and might change my stance here on things. So I appreciate the broader context. Thank you.
Okay.
Hearing no additional comments, city staff would recommend commission move to approve the 4 major projects.
Okay, thank you. All right, any additional discussion?
Mayor Dean.
Seeing that, yes, Reed.
Thank you. As indicated, I will move to approve the 3 recommended. I do think, I appreciate the context given, but as a person who accesses the trails, I don't drive there. I think a lot of people don't drive there. And I'm concerned with open space bond money being focused on parking discipline. It feels like a mismatch in the use of limited funds that we have for open space. So I think that it's not a project that I think we need to discard, but one that I do think requires a little bit of revisiting and perhaps assessing, the size, looking at the size of the trailhead in the Eagle Scout. It looks like part of the trail gets subsumed by a parking lot. And as a person who uses that all the time, I guess I feel like it's a little more than necessary, and I'd like to further discuss it before we would move that one forward. Thank you.
I might ask a quick question. So are you not supportive of using the grant for this then? I guess I'm a little bit confused.
I guess, Mayor Dean, I would suspect there would be other ways to come up with matching funds other than asphalt.
Okay. Do you know, Mr. Linksether, I know, and you talked about this on Wednesday, that you all and started this conversation with finding grants to cover as much as possible. Do you know of other sources to cover this type of expense?
Mayor Dean, Commission, not at this time. The way that we proposed the grant that we did acquire is $27,000 and change would cover staff cost to construct the parking area, and then the match to that, what I estimated a cost of $38,500 would be paving and putting the parking lot stalls onto the pavement.
So the grant is more than half of the cost of the project?
That is correct. It's a little less than half of the
A little, oh, okay, a little, yep, got it, thanks. Great, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean.
Yes, Commissioner Reed.
I move to approve 3 of the open lands major projects and improvements, the Oaks project, the Nob Hill project, and the North Benton project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final comments? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
No.
Commissioner Gustafson,
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
I'm going to vote no. I do not want to lose this grant funding. So with that, the motion fails, and we will need to reconsider. If someone would like to make a motion, an alternative motion for reconsider.
Mayor Dean,
Commissioner Logan.
I would move to approve the 4 recommended projects and improvements.
Is there a second? Seeing no second, the motion fails, so the item fails. I would look to the city manager. I think this is something we don't, well, in my opinion, I would like to see us make investments in our parks infrastructure. I also don't want us to say no to grant money that will help improve safety. And so if there's consensus from the commission, bring this back to an administrative meeting where we can have a discussion about funding and adjustments to any proposals.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. Can I direct a question to Mr. Langsather?
Please.
Sir, can you talk about the timing of this and any deadlines that we need to be cognizant of as we consider these 4 projects?
Manager Lake, deadlines are not an issue at this time. We do have time to explore this project more thoroughly, and I would invite the commission to come out with city staff and look at Lime Kiln and Dump Gulch, which are mirror images of what we're trying to do in Davis Street.
Great. So maybe I'll look to the clerk of the commission if Deputy Clerk Shade can help maybe schedule some times with the Parks Department for those commissioners that would be interested in seeing the projects on the ground. All right.
Mayor Dean.
Yes, Commissioner Logan.
To your question about consensus to consider this on a future administrative meeting, certainly. I'm comfortable with that.
Mayor Dean, yes, I agree. I'd love to just see this come back to a future admin meeting, and then I think we can move forward, especially if deadlines are not a problem right now.
Great. Okay, thank you. We will go ahead and move on to item E, consider an ordinance adopting trailhead parking restrictions by amending chapters 12 of Title 7 of the Helena City Code. This item is being requested to table, but I will turn it over to Mr. Langsather before we entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mayor Dean, and thank you, commissioners. Realizing that this item has been tabled, city staff will continue to work with the City of Helena Police Department and try to find a tool that will best meet the needs of the citizens who have concerns about nighttime activity at the trailheads and what we can all do as a team to solve this problem.
Great, thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? Any public comment?
Hi, my name is Chelsea Glenn. I am a trail user here in Helena, and I'm also an ultra runner, one of many in Helena. I want to start by saying that I understand the problem that this ordinance is trying to address. I care deeply about our lands and our trailheads, and I want them to be safe and respected. But I don't think this solution is moving us in the right direction. As an ultra runner, I do sometimes start very early or run overnight. In those cases, having access to my car at a trailhead isn't a convenience, it's a necessity. It's where I keep clothing layers, food, and safety and first aid supplies. A few other things I'd like to put out there for consideration. First, closing the parking lots doesn't guarantee quieter neighborhoods. People can still park on adjacent streets, so this likely just shifts problems closer or into neighborhoods rather than solving it. Second, if someone intends to vandalize, party in, or misuse trailheads in these spaces, they can still walk, bike, or be dropped off. So again, it doesn't address the root issue, it just changes how people get there. Third, I share the concern about trash, underage drinking, and damage, especially underage drinking. And I absolutely do not want to enable this behavior. But I also worry about unintended consequences. If teens are pushed further out of town to places like Brooklyn Bridge Trailhead and then drive back under the influence, it could create more dangerous situations. Fourth, I do understand the goal is to give law enforcement clearer authority to move people along. But since these behaviors are already illegal, I'm not sure this approach addresses the core issue. It may end up affecting responsible trail users as much as or more than the intended group, especially those out early or late due to work schedules, family responsibilities, or training mileage. Think overnight nurses, early morning workers, or runners with high mileage trying to get out before the heat in the summer. And finally, I do worry about the precedent this sets. When we begin restricting access to public trailheads during certain hours, even for valid reasons, it opens the door to more limitations over time. What starts as a targeted response could gradually expand and impact responsible users. So I understand the problem, and I think it's important that we address it, but I also think it's important that we're thoughtful about preserving access to these public spaces, and we continue looking for solutions that address the root of the problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any additional public comment?
Good evening. My name's Bruce Haswell, Haswell, and I live at 8 Readers Village Drive. My wife and I are fully in full support of this ordinance change. Those of us that live in the Readers Village subdivision are witness to almost nightly rallies that use Readers Village and Carriage Lane as the racetrack with modified mufflers. While the rallies will likely continue with the restriction, at least the ordinance change helps define an end time every evening. Thank you and appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
My name is Ashley Fisher. I am a resident here in Helena. With what the First Lady just said, I completely agree. I have lived in a wide variety of communities, from dirt roads to paved backcountry roads to in the city. Everywhere I have lived, people have sped down the road. Everywhere I have lived, people have blared their music really loud. That's not something that you're going to be able to get away from. It's just a part of humans being humans, unfortunately. I would rather see that access to the trailheads. Like she said, when you're there at night, I'd rather know that my car is in the spot that I park at all the time. I sometimes don't get home until 9, 10 o'clock at night, so being able to take my dog for a walk that late is really important since I do not have a very big backyard. Yeah, I do not agree that this ordinance will actually change anything or make anything better. Like I said, everywhere I've lived, people have sped down roads and listened loudly to music. I went home on Wednesday night and told my boyfriend about this, and at 11 o'clock that night, someone came speeding down our road with loud music. It is a part of living in a community, being in a city.
Thank you. additional public comment?
Hi, my name's Catherine Kelly. I live at 1600 Livingston Avenue. Thanks for taking comment on this. I also don't think that this ordinance is going to do what it intends to do. I agree nobody should be speeding through neighborhoods. If they're speeding through neighborhoods late at night, that is something that they can be pulled over for. If they are hanging out in parking lots loitering, maybe there's another way to frame this ordinance so that there is a different definition of how we enforce it. But as it currently reads, it's going to enforce, or it's going to say that no one can be there at any time. And as a trail user, that feels really wrong to me as well. To her point, I live next to Bryant School, and people regularly drive 50 miles an hour past my house. There's very few stop signs, and that's another great example of having these rules about driving aren't going to necessarily solve the problem. So we have to have more stop signs, more monitoring, but keeping the trailheads closed is not going to solve the issue of speeding. It's not going to solve the issue of partying. Those are already illegal, and I don't think we should be making rules that limit responsible trail users from accessing a community good. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any additional public comment?
Hi, Cam Rigg, 21 Carriage Lane, Readers Village. Thanks for having the opportunity to talk about this. I guess 2 years ago, I'm the guilty guy that started this because I was looking for a solution to the increased violence, the speeding, the wrecks that these people aren't talking about, which is fine. Their points are great. I agree with them too. I don't want to close the parking lot. I hate to do that. But it came up as a solution 2 years ago as the parks, the open space, the police chief agreed this was better than putting a gate across, and maybe it was a solution. But what I'm asking is this group, this city, needs to find a solution for this. And every city can be like this, and it could be once in a month this happens down your road or that road. This is nightly, and it's not one vehicle, it's 20. It's the amount of garbage that the park receives every night that you use as a park or a citizen of the city. It's the damage to the bathrooms at these sites. Something needs to be done. This has been 2 years asking for some help. I have not received it yet. I've received ideas. We've approached ideas. We came up with this idea. Yes, it can be adjusted. It can be made different. I don't care. I just want a solution. I want it patrolled. I've had a car slammed into a car parked in front of my house, shoved in a tree. If that car wasn't there, it's in my house. That was one of 4 incidents in the neighborhood in a matter of 4 months up there. Sawed-off shotgun from that person that slammed in the car was put in a window well of one of my neighbors because they have a warrant against them. This is the type of people that are using your park that you want to use and do night climbs with and runs. There's criminals up there. I'm sorry to tell you that. There's criminals up there using the park. I just want a solution. These people just want a solution. This is not normal. I'm sorry. I hate to tell you. My wife, my dog almost got ran over Saturday night by an individual in a big truck that was racing around the neighborhood at 50 to 60 miles an hour. That's a normal occurrence on a weekend. So if not closing the parking lot at 11 o'clock doesn't work, I don't care. Let's find a solution, please. It's dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any additional public comment?
Hello, Aaron Haffey, 32 Carriage Lane. I agree with pretty much everything that's been said on this. As an avid trail user, I respect the need for people to be up there at night and their desire to be up at the trailhead at night using the trails. It's an enjoyable time to be up there. As a resident that lives there, I also agree with what Cam is saying, because we see it, like he said, every night. We have headlights shining in our back door every night. We have the loud music. I get it. That's something that, people are going to play their music loud. They're going to drive a little fast sometimes. Thankfully, there's pretty good ravine between our house and the road that goes up to the trailhead. Because we've seen 3 cars in the last few years fly off the road and go down into that ravine. Unfortunately, none of them have gotten stuck bad enough that the police have gotten there in time to give them tickets for drunk driving or, reckless driving, those kind of things. But it is out of hand up there. We're coming into the time of the year too, in the spring especially, it seems to get worse. There's already signs up there that say no camping. We see vans up there all the time, cars that stay there overnight. There isn't much of a police presence, it seems, patrolling this area and watching out for the neighborhood. We've heard, multiple fights up there. Like Cam said, I've heard gunshots go off in the middle of the night up there. We've got kids and pets in that neighborhood. We'd like them a little better protected, so let's find a solution for this, please. I'm sure it's not just the Mount Helena trailhead either. I'm sure it's, up Beatty Street as well. Something
Thank you.
we need to address.
Thank you, sir. Any additional public comment? Any additional public comment? All right, seeing none. Commission discussion, and again, the recommendation is to table for Parks and HPD to have an opportunity to refine based on some of the conversation of the commission at the last meeting and finding a way to address the dangerous behaviors without burdened restrictions on responsible trail users. So additional comments from the commission.
Mayor Dean.
Yes.
Process question. For tabling these 4 items, do we need to make a motion for each one of those and vote on the tabling individually? Okay.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, is there a motion to table?
Sure. Go ahead. Mayor Dean, I move to table the consideration of the ordinance adopting trailhead parking restrictions by amending Chapter 12, Title 7 of the Helena City Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion to table carries 4-0.
All right, item F, consideration of first passage of the pre-zoning to B2 general commercial prior to annexation and upon annexation amending the official zoning map for the city of Helena for property legally described as tract A1A1 of the amended plat number 334302111 located within the west half of section 17, township 10, north, range 3, west, PMM, Lewis and Clark County, and set a public hearing date for April 6, 2026.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. This item here, F of 9 regular items and 10A and B of public hearings, all refer to the Trinity Center, which is the undeveloped land north of the Home to Suites Lowe's and behind the Target and that shopping center on Montana there on Sanders and Jordan Drive. As a minor subdivision, these were, we have a 35-day turnaround time once they hit sufficiency review. And so this date was scheduled. It, however, was not a convenient date for the applicant and their representatives to come here. And so they would like this item and the two public hearing items, A and B, to be tabled until April 6th.
Great. Thank you, Planner Alvarez. Any commission questions or discussion?
Mayor Dean, question. Well, the tabling of that will still fit the timeline for them, the 35 days, if it's moved to the 6th?
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Because it's the applicant's decision to have a continuance, it's fine. This was the last possible date to have the preliminary date heard within the 35 days, but they can set their own timeline if they want.
The applicant. Right. Any additional commission discussion? Is there any public comment on this item? Any public comment? All right, seeing no public comment, I'll entertain a motion to table.
Mayor Dean,
Yes, Commissioner Reed.
I'm assuming we have to do these individually, but can we read them individually as one big motion or no?
I think we have to take public comment on each of them, don't we?
Well.
Or maybe what I'll do is open up public comment for all three items. Okay, so what we'll do in that case is we will open up public comment for regular item F, public hearing 10A and 10B, and I will just read 10A and 10B into the record. 10A, consideration of a resolution of intention to annex tract A1 as shown on certificate of survey number 3430211 in Lewis and Clark County, Montana, and adjacent rights of way into the city of Helena, Montana, and establish conditions for annexation. And item 10B, consideration of the Trinity Center minor subdivision phased preliminary plat for tract A1 certificate of survey number 3430211 containing 44.186 acres. So is there any public comment on regular item F and public hearing item 10A and 10B? Any public comment? All right, seeing no public comment, any commission discussion? Seeing no commission discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Dean.
Commissioner Reed.
Per the request of the applicant and at the recommendation of staff, I move to table the following agenda items. Regular item 9F and public hearing items 10A and 10B pertaining to the pre-zone annexation and preliminary plat of the Trinity Center minor subdivision to the next available regular meeting agenda dated April 6, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final commission discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Aye.
Mayor Dean.
Aye.
The motion to table carries 4-0.
All right, moving on to our final item 11, public communications. Is there any general public comment on any item not discussed on tonight's agenda?
Back. Lily Clark, LALY-CLARKE, zip code 59601. Okay, back to it. On Thursday, Commission, you are considering repealing a citizen-led initiative that you are talking about reconsidering the resolution after those numbers, after your city attorney and your chief of police worked to make it both legal and attainable for the Helena Police Department. I think this is an embarrassment to you and your claim of a desire for civic engagement in this here city, especially when the city has not made a clear statement to its citizens of why the undefined city staff are recommending repealing after the numbers in support after the city defended the resolution in February and before there is commission direction. How can you expect the city to vote on repealing the citizen-led initiative when the state hasn't even responded to your information requests and when you haven't received any legal analysis? The city has a litigation fund, and I understand being near the end of the fiscal year, it is coming to an end, that the city of Helena dipped into its general fund during a traffic violation lawsuit when the legal fund ran out, and that Helena doubled its liability fund from $65,000 in 2021 to $147,000 in 2022, shows me that this is a statement of values and not a vague claim of fiscal responsibility or legal liability with further discussion on the resolution. Lawyers throughout Helena have outlined how Knutson have made statements of issues with sections 2 and 3 of the resolution. Rather than reconsider the entire resolution, you can make small amendments to those. The resolution and the force behind it has shown you that the city of Helena is ready to stand behind you if the state does file a lawsuit. You owe the city a clear and transparent explanation of why you are reconsidering the resolution before the state can even respond to your information request. Sean Logan, you know what puts the city of Helena at risk, not listening to what your taxpayers and voters are telling you what they know what they want. I have no interest in your petty attempts to make this anything but what it is, the city considering repealing a citizen-led initiative when the state hasn't even had a chance to respond to your information and the information request, and when you haven't had any legal analysis to review. Finally, I will remind you, Sean Logan, that your city attorney talked about legal counsel and the special meeting for this Thursday before public comment on the administration meeting on Wednesday, and that it is public knowledge if there's an update to a policy in Helena. Mayor Dean, we have asked for a conversation with you as insisted on and have not yet heard back. In this current environment of government overreach into local city policies, this is your opportunity to make a stand against overreach and for your citizens. Stand by the resolution.
Thank you. Additional public comment.
Hi, Commission and Mayor. My name is Ashley Fisher. I want to state what Lily just said. The city attorney had said who the outside attorney is during Wednesday's meeting, and also stated what Jones had recommended during that same meeting. I stated in my comment after hearing about that from her earlier in the meeting, like I am also writing this comment during today's meeting based on the conversation had at the beginning. Again, I am going to state that the AG did not even ask for the resolution to be thrown out in full, but only to be amended in 2 sections. So for this lawyer to go straight to recommending the removal of the resolution in full, I question her reasoning. Why does the staff also feel that it is best to be removed, the entire resolution with no explanation? Why are you taking into question the possibility of not fighting for our community after we showed up in hundreds telling you this is important to us? We need to fight for this resolution that the community fought for and that you all worked hard on. If the AG asked for 2 amendments, why would that not be the first option? To toss it is a slap in the face to Helena's residents, the HPD, and the city attorney who worked hard on bringing this resolution before you. And again, remember that on January 26th city meeting, where the resolution was adopted, had set a record number of attendees. Nearly 300 people in person showed up and nearly 200 online. This resolution is important to the citizens of Helena.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Any additional public comment online?
Madam Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Okay, seeing no additional public comment, any final discussion from the commission? All right, with that, this meeting is adjourned.